recording has started, but I didn't hear anything. I've got a message. Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us so promptly. As usual, we've got 60 minutes and we've got a few things to discuss. I'll open the floor with Mark, who is with us today. Mark, your update, please.
Yes, good morning, everybody, and welcome from the airport lounge in sunny Malta. I'm here to. We had a launch party of our travel agency last night. That was good, and first time for me in Malta for a long time. I just wanted to say that by way of update, I've had a lot of positive feedback from the sector, from the industry on our general principles, and I was just discussing with Kuba before you all join what we need to do from start of the new year, really with cranking up the PR campaign to get these principles out there in the market, get big clients throwing their weight behind the principles. And, I think all of us then working to boost the membership, both of members and associate members. And, I think that's sort of in the first 3 months of next year will be really, really critical. So Kuba and I will touch base before Christmas and work out a plan on that. But the good thing is that everyone is very much behind us. If anything, the feeling is that they should be harder. But I've explained to everybody that we've adopted an aspirational model to begin with, and let's see how that goes over the next few years. Get really the weight of everybody's support behind it, and then we can see what we do after that. But no, very, very positive feedback. Cuba.
Thank you. I didn't go this year to Manila, but we were very well represented. And Mark, obviously, the presentation, and that's what Mark is referring when saying that there was a very good feedback. I also understand that Ral did a very good presentation. Ral, good morning. And people who didn't know then I know you were reporting, because when I asked a question, what was the best presentation? And they just thought for a second and said, okay, yeah, Ral made a big impact talking about future, how the AI will be involved and everything, because I think you were talking about very, very topical issue. And I'm thinking, Ral, maybe you should have a 60 minutes with us as well. Maybe you should schedule for next year where you will just talk to the members and tell everybody who wasn't in Manila to do so. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, when I do those kind of shows, people pay money to go to them, so it's not really a kind of product placement thing. It's more of a kind of thought leadership on which way the wind's blowing and things for anyone to consider. So yeah, I'd be very happy to repeat that.
Very good. So we'll take it. I'll drop you a line. Now, update from Secretariat here. Pretty busy with EU ETS at the moment. Our committee is scheduled to meet, I believe, I need to check a doodle, but it is 15th when we'll be talking about the tailor-made insurance for a liability, should there be any, for the ship managers with regards to the EU ETS. It will be on the 15th of December. Now, 17th and 18th of January in London, our AGM. You all have received the calendar appointment, I hope, and the original message. I'm still working on the agenda and documentation and everything. I hope to send it in a month advance, so you will have everything ready for that. But I still recommend if you could get in touch with me, especially 17th in the evening dinner, and then 18th is the full day. So please send me a message who wants to attend the dinner, and then names for 18th when we will be in London. We have secured a place in IMO, so we will be very close. If you are looking at the hotels or anything, remember it is in the area of IMO. Together with BIMCO and other organizations, we are trying to tackle the criminalization of seafarers, and as such, the idea was floated, and we need to get people recently most responsible for criminalizing seafarers, and that is Colombia and basically South America. Therefore, the meeting will be held on the 9th of January in Houston with Americans and the presence from the Colombia, Venezuela, Panama. Decision was made
Colombia the country, not Colombia the company.
Colombia. Yes, indeed. And decision was made not to make it hybrid. And the reason for that is that we really want people there. Otherwise, unfortunately, people will only be dialing in and so on and so forth. It's very good intake already. We're talking about 100 people already sign up for it. So remember, 9th, I will resend, although I have sent the invitation already. Another interesting event is happening, unfortunately, and clashing with us on the 17th of January. European Commission is holding a series of workshops in Brussels regarding crew welfare. And I'm in a discussion with some of our members who will not be in London. They can come to Brussels and attend. And I think some bigger organizations can actually send some people to London, some to Brussels. So that's the update from me. Ral, please.
Yeah, just on that, I've been asked to join that meeting in Brussels on the 17th. So if you wanted me to represent and some InterManager points of view and members, concerns or whatever, be happy to do that.
Thanks, Ral. Yes, indeed, there is another member who will be definitely representing the crew manager's point of view. And that's very distinctive from owners' point of view. So they would like to, because there will be representation from owners, obviously pretty heavy there, but then crew managers and ship managers need to be represented. So we make sure that this is being ticked off as well. Okay, then I have nothing else and not seeing any hands up. I would like to invite Ronald. Please introduce yourself. You are known actually to quite a lot of our members because I saw messages this morning saying some people were asked to join this meeting by chief executives because you are going to talk to us about crew asset management. Over to you, Ronald.
Well, thank you very much, Captain Kuba, and thank you very much for having me in this meeting. Well, I'm pleased to hear that there's such an interest in the topic. I'm happy to see a couple of familiar faces. Unfortunately, Raal, for you, a portion of this presentation will be a repeat, but sorry for that. And Mark, it's good to see you after a long time calling in from Malta. I will start introducing myself. I used to be the president of Inmarsat Maritime for a long time, for which I retired 2 years ago by now. And maybe that is why some people still know me, because I've been doing that for a while. I will try to share my screen and show you what I'm doing now, because I sincerely tried to retire 2 years ago, but completely and hopelessly failed in that, because there's only so much golf that you can play, and I just realized that it's not my time to retire. So I'm back in a couple of ways, and this is the most important, I think, of what I have today, and that is talk to you about crew asset management and why that is a case. So I will share my screen now. I prepared a presentation, and I think I have about 45 minutes. Is that right, Captain?
No, not at all. You've got 15 to 20, and then we've got 20 minutes to grill you.
Oh, so okay, that's good. Okay, that is fine. Then I will tune to that. That is all right. I can talk about 20 minutes about this or the whole day. There we go. And then hopefully you can see it. You have to make some noise once in a while, because I can't see you anymore if I present. But anyway, we are talking about crew asset management and the case for proactive healthcare for commercial shipping, whereby the key word here is proactive. Because I will show you that there currently is a lot of cost involved in not being proactive on healthcare. But first, I will try to introduce Vikant and the word One Health. So as I said, I retired from Inmarsat a while ago, tried to find something meaningful, doing something with a purpose, and then I ran into the owner of Vikant, and his name is Peter Hult. And he explained to me that he started a company about 15 years ago with the name Vikant, which basically means we can in Swedish, because he's a Swedish national living in the United States for ages. He had been sailing for a while in the cruise business. eventually ending up in an insurance company where they were also having a couple of doctors on board of cruise vessels. Eventually, after a management buyout, he started this company. And currently, if you go on a cruise vessel, there's a big chance that all the doctors and nurses and X-ray machines and medicines and the likes are owned and run by Vikant. So although we are a name that is not commonly known in commercial shipping, we are not a startup company. In fact, we have about 450 doctors, medical professionals around the world. And what they have in common, apart from that they are working for Vikant, is that they all have been sailing. We are very proud that all our doctors have been or are mariners. So the vision that we have is to become the world's leading expert in maritime healthcare. So basically, we are a healthcare company. We are not a technology company, we are a healthcare company, which makes the key difference here. Currently, we have our people, those 450 are spread around the world. And you see here the countries from which we work, whereby the main offices that we have, where people are coming day to day to the office, are either in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, or they are in Manila, Philippines. Currently, we have about 4,000 medical encounters each and every day. We are caring for about 400,000 people at sea. We have spread our medical devices in about 3,000 cases. And as I said, we are working in 44 countries. We named our product One Health, and this is not a product discussion, but I wanted to explain the name One Health, because One Health is also a word that has been institutionalized by the World Health Organization, whereby they define it as an integrated, unifying approach to human health, which is sustainable, balanced, and optimized. And we are focusing on people at sea. But the word sustainable and optimized and unifying and integrated is resonating well with us, whereby the key word here is sustainable. We believe that eventually shipping will only be sustainable if the crew is healthy. And, you know, I noticed over the last 10 years, whereby 10 years ago, probably half of the discussions were about unmanned vessels and autonomous vessels and the likes. That whole discussion, even though technology progressed, the discussion has been pushed to the side a little bit. And unmanned became autonomous or remotely supported or whatever. But it became clear that forever there will be professional people sailing the world. So sustainable, healthy crew equals sustainable, healthy business eventually. And not only the physical health of people, but also the mental health and actually the way they experience the environment in terms of what they eat, sleep, exercise, breathe, see, and the likes of, is all making a difference on their health. And that is what we base our services and our methodology on. So as I said, we come from the passenger industry and we are for a while now focusing on commercial shipping, commercial fishing and offshore and supply vessels. And when I met Peter for the first time, he says, well, we are now successful in the cruise business, but we are still missing the other 1.9 million people out at sea. And wouldn't it be possible to give them the same experience that we have on a cruise vessel? Well, that sounds a little bit far-fetched, but basically it is exactly what we did. We digitalized the experience, or we try to digitalize the experience that people have on a cruise vessel with regard to medical care to commercial vessels. And of course, when you have a bulk carrier or a container vessel, you can't have a person on board because you only have about 24 people as a crew. But you could digitalize the same experience. And throughout the presentation, I will tell you why this is important. So first of all, a quick kind of side question. And I use this often already over the last few months, so maybe you've seen it. But nobody in shipping would even imagine taking a main engine, which is an expensive asset on board, take the main engine, try it once, build it into the vessel, and then run it until it breaks down, and then call the engineer. Nobody is doing this because an engine comes with a whole process and prescription on how to maintain it and how to make sure that it never breaks down, which comes with preventive maintenance schedules, which comes with spare parts and the likes of. But basically, there is a whole regime around the engine to make sure it never breaks down. Because if it does, it is expensive. If you don't do preventive maintenance on an engine, it breaks down in the middle of the ocean at the time that you don't have the spare parts or the expertise. And then the cost is really hitting the roof. Another analogy is the coffee machine, which is a cheap asset, but by the people it's perceived as very important, whether you're in an office or on a vessel. The coffee makes the thing run. And without a regime of expensive preventive maintenance, the people automatically make sure that it never breaks down. So also here, preventive maintenance is key, and that's what they do. The coffee machine always works. But now, if you're asking what is the major and the most important asset that we have at sea, this is basically our people. That's what you hear everywhere. But now I'm starting to exaggerate a little bit. What do we do to our people? We invented something like a PME, a pre-embarkation medical examination. In other words, we test them before they go on board, and then they work. And basically, we feed them. And eventually, when they break down, we call the doctor. Now, how is this different from what you would not do to your major asset, the main engine? So just feeding them until they break down must be the most expensive way to deal with an asset. So why would we do that to people that we believe are the most important asset that we have? So there must be something that is more economical, because the current practice of, let's say, reactive maintenance on our human assets is very costly. And I'm using 3 examples of general global statistics. And I'm already saying now that for each company, those numbers are different because this is a global average. But holistically, they have the right message. And that is, on one hand, 10,000 seafarers globally are losing their job to chronic disease each and every year, which is about a little bit more than 0.5% of the total population of 1.9 million. And they're losing their job because they're building up chronic diseases, like there are hypertension or diabetes or high cholesterol or whatever. And to give you an analogy with the onshore world, about 20% of the CEOs in the world are doing the same. 20% of the world's CEOs have hypertension, but nobody is losing their job. They're all perfectly capable of running their companies, and they monitor whatever they need to monitor and take a pill where they need to. So why would a senior officer at sea lose its job? Still, 10,000 are doing that. On average, 20% of all the deep sea going vessels are making a medical diversion each and every year. So that's one vessel every 5 years. Again, per company that may be different. It may be 10%, but it is an expensive exercise to do if you have it at hand. And if you are unlucky and you have to unload a crew member to a hospital in the United States, then it can be extremely expensive. And then I'm talking to the P&I clubs on a regular basis, and about a quarter of what they pay out is medical. And that's medical based on injury or based on illnesses. And altogether, this is a very high cost for shipping. So not doing anything on our crew in terms of proactivity is costly in the similar way as it would be very costly to not do it on your technical assets. And the ballpark calculation, and I'm going quickly now, is that if you would run 100 vessels, there is a bill somewhere in your P&L of about $2 million associated with these 3 cases. For the P&I clubs, this is averaging to about $10,000 per year per insured vessel. So imagine that well, if you are taking an average size P&I club, they will do 5 to 10,000 vessels insured. With 5,000 insured vessels, their medical bill to their members is about $50 million, which eventually is translated in the premium for the next years to all of its members. So it is altogether a very costly bill for ship owners. I will quickly drill down for the sake of time, but a medical diversion may easily cost $180,000, of which 30% is indirect. And indirect is everything that comes together with a slowdown in production, unforeseen port hire, replacement of the person that you need to disembark, overtime to seafarers in the meantime, managing your case and the likes, which may be a bill of about 60,000 per case. And on the direct cost, most of it is around the actual medical exercise, the doctor's bill, the hospital bill, the transportation and the like. And most of that you get back from your P&I club. But not all, because there's such an ugly thing called the deductible. And if you read the annual statements of the P&I clubs in the world, the average deductible now is about $10,000 per claim. And actually, this is pre-COVID numbers, because some of the P&I clubs are using deductibles of 15 to 20,000, depending on the premium deal that you have with them. So altogether, and I took an imaginary fleet of 107 vessels, on the direct cost, this deductible may end up at about $200,000 for a 100 vessels fleet. On the indirect cost, it's about $1.25 million. None of these line items you find back under the term medical. You find them back in travel. You find them back in port hire. You find them back in all these things that I just mentioned. But this is $1.5 million already. And those people that are losing their job, they are adding to your retention. And if you again have a fleet of 107, and I know you're all working with pools and you're all working with agencies, and some of you have your own agency or your own department. But if you do a quick math at an internal cost per hour, replacing a seafarer may easily cost you $30,000 to $40,000. And if you then do the math for the same 100 vessels, right, where you probably have about 2,500 people and a salary bill of about 90 to 95 million, that exercise may cost you again $500,000. I'm not talking general retention. I'm talking only the people that you are losing because they build up some form of chronic disease. Now, also, if you listen to the ICS, they predict that by 2026 we are 90,000 trained officers short. And I know that there are different opinions about this number, but my take on it is that it becomes increasingly difficult to get trained officers and trained people on the vessel. And it may differ per country, it might differ per company again, but there is something that is broken from history. Well, I'm from Holland, where we used to have a fair amount of seafarers in the past. Northern Europe, similar, but even in the Philippines, which is today's major supply of people for vessels. If you are a sailor today, there's not a big chance that you're recommending the job to your children. And even in the Philippines currently, many of the seafarers are taking the job to provide their kids a better life. Historically, it was completely different. If your father was a sailor, then there was a good chance that your son was a sailor as well. That has been broken, and we should restore it somehow by making sure that the job at sea is more attractive and is giving more back to the sailors than it currently is, which is more than money. But can we break out of this paradigm? I think we can. And when I met Peter and we said, can we mimic the digital experience of the doctor that you have on a cruise vessel? I looked at it from a technology and science perspective, being an engineer myself, running satellites for a long time. I started with connectivity. Now, since I left, a lot happened in the satellite business. There are more operators than ever. There are more constellations than ever. We have Elon Musk with Starlink, which has disrupted the satellite industry big time. And that's only good for the end user, because as a result, there's more coverage than ever. There's potential more speed than ever that you can get over your links at lower prices than ever. So, like on shore, eventually connectivity shouldn't be a barrier anymore. And similarly with digital transmission of data. So with the current technology, you can run the majority of your applications over the cloud, and you don't need big storage equipment on your vessels anymore, because this has progressed. And then more than ever, we see the smartphones or the tablets or whatever people have in their pockets nowadays being around. An average sailor has 3 or 4 of these devices when he goes to the vessel. And it's not about the phone, it is about the fact that we all have a highly sophisticated, powerful processor in our pocket right now. And over the last 15 years, a big industry has developed around it. An industry in software. You cannot imagine anything today for which there's no app. And if there's no app, it will be there within a half a year. That's how the industry works. And there is an industry on hardware. You can buy wristbands, watches, rings, wearables. Anything can communicate with your phone, whether it's an iPhone or an Android, right? There's a whole hardware industry that is now tailored to communicate with these things. So why wouldn't we use that to provide healthcare? The medical science itself progressed. So a lot of things that were lethal 20 years ago have now turned into something that can be managed in a chronic disease way. We are using the World Wide Web, and I heard the word artificial intelligence. And in fact, the use of the World Wide Web is giving us more and more knowledge in our hands wherever we are. So why wouldn't we use that? And then we have neuroscience, the absolute measurement about what the environment and your behavior is doing to your brain and your health. Where historically we could only look at behavior, currently we know what the impact is on your brain and, well, how to mitigate that. So these 6 developments are all technologies and innovations that are in our hands onshore, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be available at sea. Because if we do, it is my belief that by proactive, preventive medical care, like you would do on an engine, about 95% of the chronic diseased people would not leave the workforce as they do today. Imagine what that does to the risk profile of your vessel in the eyes of a P&I club. We are avoiding medical diversions to up to 2/3 by being proactive and giving them the health care that makes sure that they don't get sick, rather than only reacting when the issue is already there. So in that way, we are reducing the serious medical claims that you make to your P&I club. And eventually, the $2 million that you all face if you have 100 vessels, and these are only the most obvious $2 million, because I'm sure there is a whole heap more, will eventually be reduced. And we believe that out of the 2 million, at least a million, 1.4 million could disappear. Now, how does that work then? And I'm reaching the end very near, Captain, so don't worry, it won't take too long. But what we are talking about is risk mitigation here. Of course, we say this is crew asset management and this is healthcare, but what it basically is, and where the money is in risk mitigation. What you see in the right upper corner is a risk model. And a risk model like the P&I clubs use to look at the medical risk, and which you all should use when you're looking at the, well, your company or your business risks. It defines likelihood and frequency on one axis and severity and size on the other axis. And you see the red dot or the orange dot there, which is in the right under corner. It's a little bit over average where it comes to frequency, because a medical claim happens much more than a collision or a pollution. And it's under the average where it comes to the size of it in US dollars, because a medical claim on average is a payout of 40,000 for a P&I club. And when you have a pollution or a collision, it can be multiple millions. So this is why it is there. Then what preventive maintenance in healthcare terms is doing, it is working on both the frequency and the size of medical issues. And I will peel them off one by one. So starting with technical innovation. So what you see appearing now on healthcare providers like the Vicant one is applications that are using very low bandwidth to provide an instant video link with a doctor. Well, as I said, Vicant is running 450 medical professionals around the world that all have been sailing. And whenever a sailor hits the button on his iPhone, he is being immediately set up a video link to that nearest doctor. Now, you would say, well, okay, that's nice. That's a video link. But I spoke to doctors who are doing telemedicine in the historical way, and they quoted, well, then we have a crisis on board. So there's somebody who has something, we get them on the line. And the first question is, how does the patient look? And more than often they get the question, well, he looks kind of funny. Well, that doesn't help the diagnostics. So having a visual whereby the doctor can see whether the patient is pale or red or sweating or not is giving him a lot more capabilities to have the right diagnostic. Also, by having the immediate video link set up, it is completely different than how it currently works. Because currently, if the sailor doesn't feel well, he has to go to the captain or the vessel command. And that person, most likely the captain, has to make a judgment call. The judgment call mostly is based on two backgrounds. On one hand, it is the medical background that the captain has based on his first aid type of training that he had on medical, which is limited. And he is a sailor, he's not a medic. And on the other hand, it is a trade-off in cost, because calling an SOS service is costing a lot of money. So those two trade-offs are happening. And then in the current regime, where people are losing their job if they are PM'd out, there's also the prospect for the sailor that he's losing his job. So altogether, quite a lot of barriers to call the doctor. Well, and when they do, it's very late in the stadium of whatever the disease is going to be. And most likely than not, it is leading to the person having to go to hospital. Well, if you have removed all these barriers and giving the doctor an instant view on the person at a kind of a flat fee over the month, whereby it doesn't matter whether he's calling once a month or every day or 3 times per hour, it's more than likely that we are in a very early stage already knowing what is happening to that person, avoiding the most critical stuff. So that is why a direct, immediate, GDPR-safe video link with a medical doctor is important. And then on the mental side, I know there are helplines, but basically these are helplines when the people are completely stressed out and on the brink of doing something very serious, either to themselves or to the rest of the crew. What preventive maintenance means in this case is that the officers need to go to classrooms, virtual classrooms that they can run either on board or on shore, virtual classrooms where we provide awareness trainings about behavior, anxiety, depression, all the stuff that can be recognized in an early stage again, and then give them the tools to do something about it. And then to the crew, content pushed out over the same app straight away to the seafarer with the same kind of awareness content, or making or questionnaires or reaching out so that they become aware of their own behavior and what is depressing them or not. Well, both things are important on the frequency. On the severity, it's important that we are very proactive to the captain. So we are calling out to the captain every month just to discuss how the things are on board, whether he sees anything with his crew, whether he uses medicine from the medical chest, whether there are any issues that we get reported by the app where we are getting called by people. In fact, it's important that the captain gets a medical buddy that every time could be the same person, by the way, who has sailed as well and provides him advice and feedback and a listening ear to everything that concerns the crew. And in that way, it's much easier to get into an early intervention mode, removing the surprises that happen when you are just reactive. And it's not only that we are calling the captain every month, it is also, and think back about mimicking the doctor from the cruise. If you're on a cruise and you have something, you go to the doctor, you get something, and then what he most likely says is, well, take this and come back tomorrow and we will see again. Now, that is exactly the type of stuff that we can digitally replicate for the people in shipping. So not only is the crew calling us, but we keep on calling back to that person until the issue is gone. Or so we see him every day once he reported something to us. And if it's nothing, it's nothing. But if it is something, again, we are early in the process, removing the surprises. And in that way, it becomes all not too expensive. Not waiting until the last moment, removing the surprises. And then the people that we know do have either hypertension or diabetes or high cholesterol or asthma or whatever, we monitor them on a regular basis. We talk to them on a regular basis. We check their blood levels on a regular basis. And in such a way, those people should not leave the vessel. And when are people getting chronic diseases? Mostly after their 45th year in life, because it is a result of lifestyle. And coincidentally, at that time, they are most important for the company because we invested in them for 25 years. They are the highly experienced ones. Removing them from the vessel and replacing them with younger people is just increasing the risk for the vessel with all kinds of side effects as stress building up quicker, but also think about accidents and injuries and the likes of that have a relation with experience and stress. But doing it in a proactive way, we believe that about half of the risk can be reduced. And that is basically what I had to say. I'm not going deep into the products that we designed for it, but I think you get a gist that the technical innovation is important, the reaching out to the vessel, the direct relation with the people on board, the medical body, the removal of surprises, and dealing with chronic diseased people so that they don't have to leave the job. That's what I had to say, and I'm open for any type of question, Captain.
Excellent, thank you. I'm opening the floor for everybody. People are thanking you as well, I can see that. Any questions? AJ, please.
How old is the weekend, Ronald? Thanks
Say
for a
that
nice
again.
presentation. How many year old this company is?
Our company is about 15 years old.
15 years, yeah.
Yes. So as I said, we started taking a few doctors from an insurance company because the insurance company by that time thought it wasn't good to have both insurance and medical professionals. And we built that out in 15 years, or Peter and the colleagues built it out over 15 years to what it currently is. And that is a global organization of 450 medical professionals. So 15 years old. Yes.
Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thanks very much, Ronald. I think look, we've looked at Vicand in the past, and it's undoubtedly a very good health product, and sort of its genesis was on board the cruise vessels. Our only concern, I think I said it then, and I maintain it now, is that the health issue, the doctor, the medical issue is only one part of the overall well-being problem. And I think what I said to Peter at the time is, you'll find the commercial fleet, certainly those vessels managed by top quality managers on this call and others, rather more advanced insofar as we're looking at the whole issue of crew well-being as a holistic issue. So it's the education, it's the fitness, it's the catering, it's the medical, it's the mental, and I think to focus purely on the health is too narrow an issue. But I said this to Peter at the time. But also I think you will find, I know you're coming from Inmarsat, you'll find the commercial fleet, as I said, those that are managed by top quality managers at quite an advanced stage on this, because most of us have already some years ago, probably before COVID even, taken quite proactive steps in this area. But
Yeah.
crew well-being in the totality is vitally important, of course it is, but it's much bigger than health.
I'm in violent agreement with you, Mark, over there. So it is true. And in my presentation, I focused on the physical and the mental health. But where it comes to crew assets and management of it, I fully agree. And we provide those services, by the way, but this is not a product placement, that nutrition and nutrition advice, exercise, but also sleep monitoring, right, where there is a direct link between the minutes of sleep that a sailor gets and his cognitive powers the moment he gets onto a shift, that there's a direct link there, and we do sleep monitoring for that in the same proactive way. But also think about biolighting. So people who are in either engine or control rooms and never see the sunlight, it makes a lot of difference if we put some UV lighting into the control rooms to make sure that they're getting UV, so they're building up their vitamins, just as an example. And in a similar way, we do air purification in the engine rooms to make sure that people are breathing clean air, which again has a lot of impact on their mental state. So I completely agree with you. You should look at well-being from many different angles. From Weekend, we do 3: physical, mental, and the environment, as I just said. But there are many more that we have to look into. So I agree with you on that completely.
Sebastian, please.
Thank you, Ronald, for a lovely presentation. I'm Dr. Sebastian. I work for Weekend. I'm a medical director. I agree with Mark that health is only a part of it, but what I've seen on cruise ships is the doctors, they're a bit like the canary in the coal mine. They pick things up, and they head a department, and they have the power and the influence to talk to the captain, the staff captain, and hotel director, and address wider issues, not just health, but issues which may cause stress or an unhealthy work environment. And we have seen a lot of changes, for very simply change in footwear for waiters, or lack of light, as Ronald was saying, for people who work in engine rooms who never see the sunlight. So I think there is a wider picture attached to this than just health. I think health is often the thin end of the wedge, and I think when you get that part right, the rest will follow.
Yeah, I think the key word is proactivity over
Yeah,
here,
absolutely.
right? And it can go in many different ways, as long as you are staying close to the crew and the officers to know what is going on, right? And therefore, I think it is important that all our doctors have been sailing, so they are very empathic to what happens on board of a vessel. And it is just clear that people are taking advice in a better way if there is an empathic relationship with the one who's giving the advice. And I don't know about you, Seb, because we only started to know each other a few months ago.
That's right, yes.
But my guess is that you have been at sea as well, right?
Yes, I have been. Many years ago, and actually I started 25 years ago, and I've been on and off for the last decade at sea, and with Weekend for the last year and a half.
Well, it's good, as you say. Well, I'm an engineer, and you mentioned Inmarsat. This is not about Inmarsat at all. But what we did is the application that we developed is only using 256 kilobits. And that is important to know, because even though there's a lot of coverage and Starlink is there everywhere and they could provide 50 or 100 megabits per second if you want, right? There are still a lot of vessels who only have a rudimentary satellite connectivity. And even for those, 256 is a doable speed. So we were choosing 256 to make sure that as many as possible vessels could use the service. And of course, if you have 20 megabits, your video will be more optimized, but you have to start somewhere from a technical perspective.
Ronald, thank you. I'm scanning the floor if we've got any further questions. Okay, Vikant, Sebastian, thank you very much, guys. Well done.
Thank you, Captain. It was a pleasure.
And,
Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, I will be sending link with the recording and everything, because a lot of our members usually they attend afterwards as well. So thank you. Now coming back to our 60-minute meeting, any other business anybody would like to share or ask a question or anything? No, then 21st of December, just briefly before Christmas, we will have InterManager's with us, who would like to have a discussion with us about our engineers, technical superintendents, chief engineers, and other engineers, and their involvement, how they can actually help us and assist InterManager members with the membership and their services. That's all from us then. Thank you very much, everybody, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye, bye.